The day before our company merger. You need to know the truth about your partner, a stranger warned. When I demanded answers. The rain was coming down in sheets outside, casting a murky glow over the glass windows of my office. I glanced at the time on my computer screen, 9:15 p.m. It was one of those late nights, which had become common in the months leading up to our company's biggest milestone yet. The merger. The thing I'd poured my heart, soul, and sanity into for almost a year. Tomorrow, Rainport Solutions, the company I'd co-founded with Kyler O'Hara 10 years ago, was about to seal the deal with Rivet, an East Coast tech giant. This merger was going to bring Rainport into a whole new stratosphere, a level we could never have imagined back in the early days, working out of Kyler's cramped apartment. I rubbed my temples, trying to ease the headache that had been simmering all day. Just then, my phone vibrated, pulling me back into the present. A message from LinkedIn. That's weird, I thought. No one ever reached out to me on LinkedIn this late. The subject line alone was enough to make my heart skip a beat. You need to know the truth about your partner. The message was short and blunt. Delia, I don't know you, but you deserve to know the truth. Meet me tonight at the Last Drop Cafe at 10 p.m. and I'll show you the evidence. Bring an open mind, and be prepared for a shock. I felt a chill run down my spine. Who would send me something like this? I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was probably some scammer or a disgruntled former employee trying to stir up trouble. But the phrasing was so specific. They knew my name. They knew about my partner. They knew enough to find me online and reach out on the night before the merger. I grabbed my phone and dialed Alden, my husband, who'd been my rock through countless nights like this one. He picked up after a couple of rings. Delia? What's up? Are you coming home soon? I hesitated. Yeah, about that. Something just came up. I got a weird message from someone saying they have information about Kyler. He laughed, but I could tell it was forced. What kind of information? I don't know. They want to meet me. Tonight. They said they'd show me the evidence. Delia, it's probably nothing. Just someone trying to mess with you. Tomorrow's huge, don't let random people throw you off balance. I know, but what if it's something serious? I can't shake the feeling that there might be something to it. Alden sighed. Listen, if it's going to give you peace of mind, go check it out. But be careful, alright? And call me as soon as you're done. I slipped my coat on, grabbed my purse, and headed out, hoping I was making the right decision. The Last Drop Cafe was a little hole-in-the-wall joint on the east side of town. It was dimly lit, with a few lingering patrons hunched over laptops or steaming mugs. I scanned the room, and then I saw her. A woman sitting by the window, blonde hair pulled into a loose ponytail, looking out the window with a tired, almost defeated expression. She looked familiar, but I couldn't quite place her. She turned, met my gaze, and waved. I approached slowly, heart pounding. As I got closer, it hit me. Brionna. Kyler's ex-wife. We'd only met a couple of times, but I remembered her vividly, her eyes always flickering with an intensity I couldn't quite read. Brionna, I said, my voice barely a whisper. What? Why are you here? She gestured for me to sit down, her face serious, lined with shadows that hadn't been there the last time I saw her. Delia, thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. I settled into the chair across from her, trying to mask my shock. What's this about? What's going on? She looked down at her hands, then back at me. I know you're about to merge with Rivet tomorrow, and I couldn't let you go through with it without knowing what I know. I'm here because Kyler's been lying to you. About a lot of things. I felt my stomach drop. Lying about what? Brionna, you can't just say that without an explanation. She reached into her purse, pulling out a stack of papers, worn and crumpled. Kyler has been siphoning money out of Rainport, Delia. Hundreds of thousands, maybe more. He's been doing it for years, funneling it through shell accounts, fake invoices. I think he's planning to disappear once this merger goes through, leaving you to deal with the fallout. I stared at her, a wave of disbelief washing over me. No. That doesn't make any sense. Kyler wouldn't do that. He's the one who's been pushing for this merger as hard as I have. He's invested. She shook her head, her voice low and intense. You don't know him like I do, Delia. Kyler only cares about one thing, himself. When we were married, he was constantly lying, manipulating. I tried to ignore it, to make excuses for him, but eventually, I couldn't. She pushed the papers toward me. Look for yourself. My hands trembled as I took them, flipping through page after page of financial statements, suspicious transfers, fake accounts. It was all there, laid out in black and white. There were transactions I couldn't ignore, some dated as recently as last month. My mind reeled as the reality sank in. No, there has to be an explanation, I murmured, more to myself than to Brionna. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. Kyler would have told me if there were financial issues. We're partners. We built Rainport together. Briona's face softened, a flicker of pity in her eyes. I know it's hard to believe. I wanted to trust him too. But he's a master manipulator, Delia. He knows how to make you feel safe, how to make you feel like you're the only one he cares about. But it's all an act. Believe me, I've been through it. I slumped back in my chair, feeling like the ground had been ripped out from under me. So what am I supposed to do? Tomorrow is the merger. If I don't go through with it, Rainport could be ruined. If I confront him, who knows what he'll do? Briona looked at me with a steady gaze. That's why I'm here, Delia. I wanted you to have a chance to protect yourself, to make a choice before it's too late. Confront him if you want, but be prepared for him to twist the truth, to make you feel like you're the one in the wrong. The realization hit me like a freight train. Kyler had always been the charming, confident one, the face of Rainport. I was the one in the background, handling the day-to-day grind. And yet, deep down, I'd always known there was something off about him, something that kept me from fully trusting him. Thank you, Briona, I said quietly, my voice barely holding together.
I don't know what to say.
She reached out, placing a hand on mine. I know how much this hurts. But you deserve the truth. Don't let him destroy everything you've worked for. I nodded, my mind already spinning with 1,000 thoughts. How was I supposed to confront Kyler? What was I going to say? And if he denied it? What then? I drove back to the office, my mind racing. As I walked into the empty building, I saw Kyler sitting at his desk, scrolling through his phone, a smirk on his face. I took a deep breath and approached him, heart pounding. Kyler, I said, my voice cold and steady. We need to talk. Now. He looked up, his eyes narrowing. Delia? What's going on? I dropped the stack of papers on his desk. Explain these. For a moment, he looked genuinely surprised. Then his face shifted, that familiar smooth grin sliding into place. Where did you get these? Doesn't matter. What matters is that I know. I know about the fake accounts, the siphon money. I know you've been planning to leave me with the mess while you run off with millions. He leaned back, crossing his arms, his face unreadable. Delia, this is ridiculous. You really think I'd betray you, after everything we've built together? I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay calm. These aren't just accusations, Kyler. They're facts. I've seen the transfers. I know about the shell accounts. How could you? He shrugged, his smirk growing colder. Maybe I deserve a little more credit than you're giving me. Who do you think got us here, Delia? You, with your obsessive spreadsheets and late-night number crunching? No. I'm the reason Rainport is on the map. I'm the one who brought in the investors, the clients. You're just support. My stomach twisted in anger and disbelief. Support? I've sacrificed everything for this company. I trusted you. He laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. That's your problem, Delia. You're too trusting. Always have been. You don't have what it takes to make the big moves, so don't blame me for doing what I had to. I stared at him, a strange calm settling over me. So, that's it? You were just going to leave me with the fallout, let me take the blame for everything? He shrugged, almost bored. It's business, Delia. Grow up. I could feel the fire in my chest turning into something colder, sharper. Fine. But you're not getting away with this, Kyler. Not without a fight. He just smiled, leaning back in his chair. Good luck. You'll need it. I turned and walked out, my mind already racing with plans, strategies, ways to expose him before it was too late. But I knew this wasn't going to be easy. Kyler was slick, manipulative, and ruthless. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a battle. And I was prepared to fight. As I walked out of the office, I didn't feel defeated. I felt emboldened. Kyler thought he could just waltz out of Rainport with millions, leaving me to clean up his mess, but he underestimated me. He'd always thought of me as the quiet, diligent one, the workhorse behind his showmanship. But this was no longer about saving face or avoiding scandal. This was about taking back what I'd built, what he was willing to destroy to satisfy his greed. I knew I couldn't do this alone. So I went home, took a deep breath, and told Alden everything. He listened intently, anger flashing in his eyes as I explained Kyler's betrayal, Briona's tip-off, and Kyler's chilling indifference when I confronted him. Delia, Alden said, setting his hand on mine, Kyler's a snake. You know it, I know it, and now. It's time to make sure everyone else knows it too. We spent the rest of the night devising a plan. If I wanted to expose Kyler, I had to play this strategically. Blowing up at him in private would only lead to more denials, gaslighting, and cover-ups. I needed hard evidence, more than the financial records Briona had given me, and I needed it in a way that would leave him no room to escape. First, I contacted Briona, who was more than willing to help. We brainstormed and pieced together as much as we could from her knowledge of his past schemes. Then, I called in a favor from an old friend, Samuel, a forensic accountant who owed me more than a few late-night drinks from our college days. He agreed to comb through Rainport's finances to find every hidden account, every shady transfer. And as he dug deeper, what he found made my stomach turn. Kyler's corruption went back years, with money funneled through different shell companies, falsified invoices, and even funds skimmed from employee benefits. With Samuel's help, we had a mountain of evidence. Enough to go public if needed, but I wanted to do more than just reveal Kyler's misdeeds. I wanted to watch his empire crumble in his hands. The next day, I called a board meeting. It was rare for Kyler and me to bring the entire board together on short notice, but I used the merger as an excuse, saying there was a last-minute adjustment that needed urgent attention. Kyler showed up to the meeting in his usual swagger, probably thinking he had nothing to worry about. I greeted him with a cold, professional smile, and he raised an eyebrow, clearly noticing the shift in my demeanor. As the meeting began, I pulled up a presentation on the large screen in the boardroom. Kyler looked at me, bemused, probably thinking it was some last-minute pitch or update. So, as you all know, we're on the verge of a major transition with this merger, I began, glancing around the table at the board members who had been part of Rainport since its inception. But there are some financial discrepancies that have recently come to light. I believe it's essential that we address these before moving forward. Kyler's smile faltered. Delia, maybe we should go over this after the merger, he said, his voice low, trying to signal me to back down. This is a big day, and we don't need any distractions. Ignoring him, I clicked through the first few slides, revealing bank transfers and account numbers, some linked to shell companies under Kyler's name, others to offshore accounts. Kyler, I said, turning to him with a steely gaze, would you care to explain these transactions? He tried to laugh it off, as though I'd caught him in a minor accounting error. Delia, come on. I'm sure whatever you found is just a misunderstanding. You know how these things are, complex financial structures are part of how we keep Rainport running. The board members exchanged glances, murmuring among themselves. I could see the doubt creeping into their faces, the trust they had in him slowly unraveling. I took a deep breath and pulled up the next slide, a damning email exchange between Kyler and an offshore banker. There's more, Kyler, I said, feeling my confidence grow with every word. For years, you've been skimming funds from Rainport's accounts, inflating expenses, and pocketing the difference. These aren't just financial strategies, this is theft. And it's all documented. One of the board members, Mr. Lee, a retired tech executive with a no-nonsense demeanor, looked at Kyler, his jaw tight. Kyler, is this true? Kyler's face turned pale.
I don't know where she's getting this.
Delia must be mistaken. This is an attempt to sabotage the merger. Enough, I said, my voice steady but loud enough to command the room. This isn't sabotage. This is accountability. I won't stand by and let you take Rainport down with you. He turned to me, his eyes narrowing. Delia, do you have any idea what you're doing? You're ruining both of us. I met his gaze, unflinching. No, Kyler. I'm saving this company from you. With every new slide, every bit of evidence, I could feel the board turning against him. The members peppered him with questions, demanding explanations for the transfers, the accounts, the discrepancies. And with each answer he stammered out, his mask slipped further, his confidence crumbling into desperation. Finally, Mr. Lee, who'd been watching the entire spectacle unfold with a tight frown, cleared his throat. Kyler, I think you should step down, effective immediately. It's clear that Rainport needs new leadership, someone with integrity. Kyler looked around the room, eyes darting from face to face, searching for any support. Finding none, he slumped back in his chair, defeated. You can't do this, he whispered, his voice hollow. This is my company too. Not anymore, I replied firmly. Consider this your resignation. Effective immediately. But I wasn't done yet. The day after Kyler's forced resignation, I leaked the entire story, the financial scandal, the fraud, everything, to the press. I wanted the world to see him for who he really was. Reporters ran with the story, and within hours, Kyler's name was tarnished. His so-called friends and allies in the industry dropped him like a hot coal, distancing themselves from the scandal. Rainport's stock took a temporary hit, but it was worth it to save the company from imploding under Kyler's corruption. A few days later, I got a call from Briona. You did it, she said, a hint of admiration in her voice. Kyler thought he was untouchable. But you took him down. I couldn't have done it without you, I replied. Thank you for helping me see the truth. I just wish I'd had the courage to do it sooner, she admitted, a touch of sadness in her tone. But you're stronger than I ever was. We talked for a while, sharing stories, finally finding closure for everything Kyler had put us through. As for Kyler, he fled the city, leaving behind the life he'd carefully constructed. Last I heard, he was somewhere in Europe, scrambling to keep his remaining assets out of reach of investigators. The board and I worked tirelessly to rebuild Rainport's reputation, to show our clients and partners that we were committed to transparency and integrity. Months later, when the dust settled and Rainport was stronger than ever, I took a moment to reflect on everything I'd been through. Kyler's betrayal had been painful, but it had also been a wake-up call. I learned to stand up for myself, to trust my instincts, and to fight for what I believed in. Alden and I celebrated that night, toasting to new beginnings. And as I looked around at the life I'd rebuilt, I knew I'd come out stronger. Kyler had tried to take everything from me, but in the end, I'd taken everything from him. It wasn't just revenge, it was justice. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free.